Alright, listen up, cabbies. I got your assignments. Riga, 643. Wheeler, 148. Nardo, 804. And all of you need to join host HP and Father Malone as they examine one of the greatest sitcoms in television history, Taxi. In Night, Mr. Walters, a Taxi podcast. Banter, zero, like your boxing record.
Night, Mr. Walters.
Weird Way Media.
Now check this one if you will. Tonight we offer you the sour fruit of a scientist's failure. For there are apparently some things that can't be accomplished. And therein lies the tale and hangs the picture. In this, the Night Gallery.
Welcome back, art lovers, to Midnight Viewing, the Night Gallery podcast, where we discuss Night Gallery, Rod Serling's follow-up to The Twilight Zone. I'm Father Malone, and with me here in the gallery are the Culture Cast, Chris Stachiw.
There's something in the woodwork.
And the Projection Booth's Mike White.
Why have you disturbed me?
Tonight we're talking about two episodes from Season 3, episodes 11 and 12. Something in the Woodwork,
Stairway
and Death
Inspector,
on a Barge.
Cobwebs and Darkness. It's called Something in the Woodwork. It tells of what one might look for when purchasing a house. Because that creak you hear in the dead of night is not always an errant rafter. Sometimes if you walk up those attic steps, you'll find yourself face to face with the very thing that goes thump in the night. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Night Gallery.
Something in the Woodwork is Season 3, Episode 11. It first aired on January the 14th, 1973. This was written by Rod Serling, based on the short story Housebound by R. Chetwynd Hayes, and directed by Edward M. Abrams. Now, he is mainly an editor. He edited the pilot for Night Gallery, but he directed a great deal of episodic television. Weirdly, if he directed on one series, he wouldn't edit on it, and vice versa. It was interesting. Also, R. Chetwynd Hayes. Chris, do you recognize that name?
Didn't we watch something, right? Recently?
Welcome to
the Monster Club, right?
Yeah, R. Chetwynd Hayes. He's an English author, wrote tons and tons of short stories, and this is one of them.
I was going to say, there has been at least one other R. Chetwynd Hayes story adapted in Night Gallery, no?
Yes, I believe we had one other.
Just making sure, because I thought you were asking because I was like, oh yeah, he's done another. There was another Night Gallery story, but the Monster Club, boy, that Jesus Christ.
That's the main one, baby. That's a good one. I love that one. Anyway, this one stars Geraldine Page, third time's the charm, and Leif Erikson, second time works too. I just want to say that if nothing else, rewatching these episodes of Night Gallery has given me an appreciation for Geraldine Page every single time. And that's extended into feature films. Chris and I recently watched The Pope of Greenwich Village, which she was fucking phenomenal in. And she's fucking great here. She's so far played a frantic housewife and an old crone, and now this delirious drunken sex bot. This is the story of a delirious drunken sex bot who finds solace in the shadow of a man who is deceased in her attic. What'd you think of this one, Mike?
I was expecting there to be a chest in this attic that you're not supposed to move, and you definitely shouldn't put it out in the shed because it might bust out and then end up back in the attic. Plus, like the ghost that you hire to kill your ex-wife. This feels so familiar. Yes, Geraldine Page gives a great performance, but she's just not given a lot to do and to work with. It just is one of these tell it to call you Billy type of things where you send the person to their doom and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I felt so bad for the spirit that she just kept bothering with all of her drunken blather. And I'm like, yeah, this guy, he's happy being up in this attic and never leaving and just wants to be in the woodwork. Why are you bothering him? I felt personally attacked by this episode.
I liked it better when it was "I'll never leave you ever." I mean, to Mike's point, it just kind of has this samey vibe of all these other things that we've seen, kind of just force it in there and then blend it all up. And now you got something new. It's like, well, it's kind of just everything else that we've seen blended up, and masquerading is something new. Like, you blend up a hamburger, it's still a hamburger in a fucking cup, for fuck's sake. It's not any different, is my point. It just tastes a little different because it's different consistency. That's what this is. It's just, okay. I mean, sure, Geraldine Page is good, but this would have worked better if it had been one of two segments in a 2-segment episode, because similarly to the things we talked about in the last episode, the format is now betraying the show, because some of these stories don't need all this time. They're kind of making the stories fit the length of time, not the other way around. And that can come to bite you in the ass sometimes, and it kind of has here, because they spin their wheels a little bit, and they do this show thing where they show the same thing 3 times as opposed to just twice. It's like, Jesus Christ, we don't need to see it 3 and 4 times. I got it after the second time. First time may have even been enough. But, again, in terms of late in the game, the show is in the last kind of vestiges of its existence. This is still better than a lot of those Tales from the Crypt episodes we watched at the end of that show's run. Those episodes were so unintelligible, they were borderline unentertaining. So at least there's still some things to hold on to with this show in its kind of last days before it goes the way of so many other anthology shows.
Shame on both of you for not enjoying the hell out of Frank Gorshin from Star Trek appearing in this episode as the ghost.
Well, that's appropriate since Lou Antonio shows up in the next one.
I agree with everything you both just said. This demonstrates a very frustrating aspect where we, in previous seasons, had episodes too short on occasion, and that needed to be fleshed out. Now we have all the time in the world. In fact, we have the most talented people in front of the camera for all the time in the world. We can tell any story we want. Let's really tell a story. We needed one moment with her ex-husband just to show that relationship and how desperate and lonely she is. And then it should just be her and the ghost for the rest of the goddamned episode. And her and the ghost was the most minute part of the episode. Why we didn't lead up to the ghost obviously having no other choice but to kill everything it can just for some peace. It doesn't ever feel that. She just says, hey, would you do this? And he's, leave me alone. So I'll burn the house down. He's like, yeah, whatever. And then he does it. Like when he comes down the stairs and she's getting her just desserts, that he's possessed the husband and cast him into the attic, and now he's going to murder her. He's saying, like, why wouldn't you leave me alone? You didn't have to murder the husband. She would have been committed. The house would have returned to its original. There's no stakes for the ghost to do anything at all because we haven't built that up. That's what I took away from this.
Charlie is no longer with us. What a decision we've made, huh? Ghosts with monotone voices are not scary. I don't know who thought they were, but they're not. Ghosts talking isn't scary. The moment a ghost opens its mouth, it stops being scary, if it's this kind of ghost. But, yeah.
A ghost you can have a conversation with.
Yeah. Oh, it can be reasoned with all of a sudden? Come on. Really?
The set decoration was so fucking spectacular up there. That plastic spider bouncing in the web and with a gigantic shadow on the wall to accentuate it. It was fantastic.
They're really putting in as much effort as they really care to at this point, which seems to be nothing.
I had to watch this a few times and I resented it each time. Even though the stuff between Geraldine Page and Leif Erikson is great. The sort of when they're at each other about their relationship. And I wanted honestly to know more because I felt bad for her for most of the episode. All we get is the husband saying she's a drunk and whatever. And we get one scene of her obviously going too far, but it seemed more desperate than mean. They end up painting her as the harridan because she asks the ghost to do this or threatens the ghost to do it. But I don't know. The tone is very off. Like I said, not only do we not build up to the fact that the ghost has to do this for her, we don't really understand, or at least for me, I didn't see her as anything but a pathetic character at the beginning. Certainly not something that I hated like the husband did.
Same here. Yeah, I was like, okay, she has some problems, but they're mostly caused by Leif Erikson. And I have to say, he looks really good for someone who was most active back in the 11th century.
That's all I can think when I hear this actor's name. Same fucking thing. What did this guy do? Walk onto set and take his Viking helmet off? Like, put down the glass of blood before every take, okay? I love the shots of Geraldine Page's eyes with, as I sit here, fucking benefit of the audience, her eyes with the shot of the ghost inside. That's peak Night Gallery now. They're doing the eye shot from Columbo. They're doing the glasses shot with Robert Culp in Columbo. They're doing it here. But they're doing it in a way that's, what? Why? This just looks goofy. And there's like the face in the background that kind of fades in and out. I don't know. They use all the tricks in the book when every time she goes into the attic. It's pretty great.
The attic with the most even cobwebs.
Perfect coverage. Perfect cobweb coverage.
Yes, there's not one 2x4 that doesn't have the exact right amount of cobwebs on there. Props to the props guy.
They do a lot of Pepper's Ghost stuff here. They have the actor on set and he's standing apart and they have a plexiglass thing and he's a reflection and whatever. But during one sequence where it's a camera roaming around, it pans the room and it doesn't have the Pepper's Ghost effect. It's just the guy behind a pane of glass and it's, wow, look at that guy painted up, sitting there in that attic. Added to the overall ambiance of those perfect cobwebs and that ridiculous rubber spider. What's going on here, Night Gallery? Are you okay? Are you all right?
The amount of time that they linger on that spider is hilarious, and then they have another one. There's not just one, there's two fucking spiders. And they show the spider, and then they cut away, and then they cut back, and they're showing another spider. It's like, no, she showed one, it was a problem. Yeah, I think they probably had if you showed the back of the spider, it has that little spot where you can put on your finger like a ring, because that's what they give kids at Halloween. Fucking embarrassing.
What was the thing with the pendant that I think she was trying to give that to Leif Erikson and he was all mad about it. And it shows up right at the end of the episode too.
Yeah, I did not understand even what it was. Something she had made or purchased for him, and then he refused it. And then when she makes the decision that he's going to die, she throws it away very symbolically. I think that was it was a birthday gift, right? Because she had baked him a birthday cake. It was a birthday dinner. And yeah, again, I think Rod Serling and company meant for us to think like she was being just pushy and gross there. And I thought, oh, this is so sad. Somebody get her a friend. Get that. Where's that cat Leonard Nimoy tangled with? It'll be company for her.
I think that's a testament to Geraldine Page as an actress, though, that she's able to make the proverbial chicken salad out of chicken shit here. She elevates it, because I think anybody else would have been that kind of just like a nagging, just crone of a woman that you expect from this kind of story. And this just like conniving bitch is the way it's written on the page is totally just conniving beyond words. And it doesn't come off that way at all. And I think this episode is better for it, but I think it also hurts it because it feels like, oh, there's a great performance surrounded by kind of some of the worst things we've seen in this show so far in terms of set design faux pas that are so hard to ignore. They're like, it's like a child's fucking haunted house in an elementary school.
The story...
Actually, take that back. It would probably be better in an elementary school because the adults would have done it.
The episode calls for Billy Northrup, Adrienne Barbeau from Creepshow's character here.
Oh, totally.
And instead, what we got is this subtle, nuanced performance by Geraldine Page that made me really sad for her, which I'm not in any way bagging on Adrienne Barbeau's performance. She is perfect in Creepshow. That is exactly what that movie needed. And I'm saying maybe this episode needed it a little bit more too, because Geraldine, is this a case where Geraldine Page is too good for the episode? Is she?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe, because I cared too much for her.
She was nominated for an Oscar for being in 2 scenes in Pope of Greenwich Village. Yes, she's too good for this episode.
Yeah,
she's a great actress. She's a good actress. Every time we've seen her, she's good. This is one of those cases where it's like, oh, I would say it's a shame, but we have seen her be good in the show in season 2 twice. So at least there is that. But I'm just going to go on a limb here because, again, I feel like it needs to be mentioned. These third seasons of these anthology shows are a fucking drag. Yeah. I don't get it. Tales from the Crypt was this way. Twilight Zone 85 was this way. This show is this way. Like, what? Why did everybody just decide to give up collectively at the same time?
It's funny that you brought up Billy, because when she was sending Leif Erikson upstairs, I was like, yeah, make sure you tell them to call you Billy. So
should have been her. Would have been a little bit more lively an episode instead of a funeral dirge.
We got her just desserts in the end, right?
But I just felt bad.
It's right. It's right. No, wrong.
no, exactly.
I had a hard time. I had a hard time understanding the moral compass of this episode. Let's put it that way.
Why couldn't he just leave? Like, why did he have to kill her? Just you got a body now, baby. Go out and get murdered elsewhere.
She was a drunk and she tormented him. Okay.
Day. That's the thing. It was like one day. She was just like, hey, man, I want to talk to you. And he's like, leave me alone. And then he starts talking to her. He only says, like,
why are ghosts such dicks in this show? Like, why? There's been like very few positive ghost interactions in this show.
Bob Crane interaction was great. You owe me now, sucker.
It is Twilight Zone adjacent, so I guess that the interactions are never going to be positive, but all of the ghosts in Night Gallery all feel very samey in their goals that they're trying to achieve, which is revenge on the humans who have wronged them. Is seemingly all the usage of ghosts in this show is revenge on the humans that wronged them. And this story is once again another entry into that, because the ghost is mad that Geraldine Page, what bothered you, motherfucker, in the attic for a day, man. I'd like to see what happens if it goes past 2 days. You disembowel me? Jesus.
Don't you miss blackout sketches?
I do. Do.
Yeah.
I missed it.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And we've had one this whole season, that stupid vampire photo or whatever it was. Smile. Yeah.
Mike, you describing it's better than the whole thing.
I think it takes me longer to describe it than to watch it.
We show paintings like this one, in a color scheme of blood-red sky with corpse-white moon. This, we tell you up front, is a story of vampires. And, of course, this must conjure up images of Bela Lugosi and Christopher Lee, somewhat frigid, malevolent, monstrous creatures. But reserve such all-conclusive judgment of the living dead until you hear the story of a particular vampire, the kind you might find in a place like this, the Night Gallery.
All right, Death on a Barge. This is season 3, episode 12. First aired on March the 4th, 1973. It was written by Halstead Wells from the short story The Canal by Everett Worrell. And this one was directed by Leonard Nimoy. This one stars Lesley Ann Warren, Lou Antonio, Brooke Bundy, and Robert Pratt as Ron. And this is the story of a beautiful woman who resides on a barge and won't come ashore no matter how badly she and her potential suitor want it. What'd you think of this one, Chris?
I like this one better when the woman was a half fish.
I liked it when she was a ghost werewolf.
Oh, yeah, or that. Yeah, again, I know that this is based off of a story by Everett Worrell, but sure, it feels of a piece here. Lesley Ann Warren is fine. I'm a huge fan of the fishmonger friend, who is just the most dastardly fishmonger around. I'm gonna blackmail you to have sex with me, like,
yeah.
Fishmongers, man. It's, again, the morality of the episode is a little strange, a little skewed. Lesley Ann Warren gets fucking got at the end. It's a 3rd season episode. That's what it is. What did you think, Mike?
Sterling, in his intro, goes, "This, we tell you up front, is the story of vampires." I'm like, really? Maybe don't tell people that and let them guess what's going on, because it feels like this episode would have been better had we not known that she was a vampire. I think all of us on this call would know that vampires can't cross running water, but it would be neat to have this weirdo lady who sits on this barge all the time is just like chatting this guy up, and she won't come ashore. Oh, why is that? Why could that be? And then we're going to try to explore what that is. And yeah, but instead this is a story about a vampire. Okay, thanks. Yeah, again, it goes on for way too long. If it wasn't for Lesley Ann Warren, I would have nothing for this episode. I love her. I really like Lou Antonio as the sleazy fishmonger, but yeah, the main character, I don't really care about the main character guy at all. He seems just very milquetoast.
Leonard Nimoy should have played that part.
Oh, there you go.
Then it would have been spectacular. Robert Pratt as Ron is terrible. I don't like him in the slightest. And you're right, Mike. Remember Dark City, the movie Dark City, Alex Proyas's film?
That Roger Ebert couldn't stop jizzing about all those years.
So the thing, have you seen the director's cut of that movie where they remove the narration at the beginning that lets you know exactly what you're about to see in the movie and what everything is? It's pretty spectacular. Rod Serling cut the legs out from whatever could have been potentially good about this episode by saying the word vampires in the opening. You're absolutely right, because it is mysterious. You wouldn't know what was going on. It was just some freaky lady out in a barge. What's going on with that? Yeah, and if you're keyed into vampire lore, then it's nice that you could figure that out. But this episode is not. The episode was interested in a slow burn, and Rod's like, "Fuck you, sorry, Spock." Now, I think Nimoy did a really good job. There's some crane shots in here that are fucking fantastic because he's a first-time director, and first-time directors go all out. This is shot entirely in the New England portion of the Universal backlot. He shoots it great. It doesn't feel fucking stagey. That lagoon he even manages to shoot and not make it look like the fucking backlot, which I really liked. This episode contains the single most suggestive line in all of Night Gallery history. As you plunge it in, cry out, "I love you."
Oh, yeah, that was great.
My God. I have lots of questions, however, now that
yes,
we can get into this episode. First of all, her dad loved that peg leg. I think we were robbed in not getting to see him navigate across that plank.
I would have loved that. And okay, yeah. So what's the story about the dad? I was convinced that he was a vampire, but she says something about how he goes out in the day, she goes out in the night. So I was like, I guess he's a day walker. It didn't make any sense to me that he would keep his vampire daughter around because, like Chris says, she gets got at the end. And you're like, why now? Why kill her now when you've had all these years to do that?
Because she just fell in love.
He's had her on the barge, and therefore she's not been the threat. But now she can walk around, so she's got to go. I think that's what it is. But she's so thirsty, she keeps saying, right? She had to kill creepy Lou Antonio. She didn't ever attack her father? She's that thirsty? Is he feeding her? Do they talk at all? They have some overlap.
He's her familiar, is he not? Like, essentially, he gets her food.
But what food is he getting her? He's not getting her food.
That we see. I mean, he could be disposing of it.
It would have been interesting had they been like, oh yeah, we go up and down this river. Every year we move to a different spot. And this time we're here. And basically, yeah, like the dad goes out and gets her food, brings back bodies or animals or something for her to feast on.
The dogs have been disappearing. Yeah, God, it's almost...
We have 25 minutes and 55 seconds for this episode, and they're focusing on the wrong things.
What, is this a story about VD? Because it kind of feels that way. Don't step out on your lady because you're going to end up with a disease of the blood. You know what I mean?
That's what, I mean, vampirism is so about that, or can be a metaphor for that, definitely.
Definitely felt like this in this case, or a metaphor for Nightmare Before Christmas. Know your place. Don't try and step out of your fucking mundane existence because you'll get fucking murdered unless you murder it first. Exhausting, some of these. I loved how elaborate the below deck was on that barge. My God.
Oh, my Lord.
Not only was it red velvet everything, but they had their own smoke machine going in there. It was fucking fantastic.
That was amazing.
Dry ice, I'm guessing.
Can't see the floor. What is that? Smoke everywhere.
And just that haze that they shoot the whole episode through, too. It's so... Oh, boy, yeah. 70s haze and 70s hair. His girlfriend... She looks like she could don the leather and become Pinky Tuscadero just so easily. I guess she's more like doing the Susie Quattro thing.
I think I love that they're sitting in director's chairs too at that table. It's like that's set with, I don't know, everything off of the barge and not to do with the barge is so strangely designed, decorated, and yeah, I don't know. It's a strange episode for a number of reasons. not solely the one where, yeah, the father kills his daughter at the end for seemingly no reason. Still cannot for the life of me figure out why.
I have a practical thing to point out. At one point, when they're fishmongering in their shack, which is called Moby Dick's, by the way, a customer asks for bonito for 4. And then creepy Lou Antonio says, £1.50 a piece. Is everyone expected to eat £1.50 of fish that evening?
A 7-pound fish.
Wow. Fish doesn't really cook down. Wow. Those fish were some of the most disgusting looking fishes I've ever seen.
Hope you guys like bonito. We're going to be eating for a while.
Eat it now. Like, that's Lou Antonio's idea of a portion? What's going on at Moby Dick? Stop it. Now, as for the end, okay, this guy makes this cuckoo decision that he's got to go kill her. He's decided he's going to lure her out onto the sand and not let her leave until the sun comes up and she'll burn up.
Which he tells her. You
He
should
lets
never
her
tell
know,
your plan.
like, I'm going to kill you.
Right. That's like Deacon Frost saying to Udo Kier, hey, listen, I'm going to put on motorcycle helmets, me and my crew, and we're going to take you out here to the beach and take off your hood and let you burn up in some really bad CGI. I mean, it'd be the same thing. But no, it's a surprise. You got to surprise Udo Kier.
Well, you got to surprise Udo Kier because Lesley Ann Warren is the most laissez-faire vampire in the history of televised or cinematic incarnations. She's like, I'm here to kill you. She's like, yeah, okay. But I can't do it. All right, good, then love me. Oh, but I can't, you understand. I can't, I have to kill you. Okay, there's a steak in the, grab that steak and just right here.
Just stick in the freezer. Yeah. It's about 2.5 pounds. It's a portion.
Thanks, Lou.
Kill me, don't kill me. I'm going to kill you. I'm not going to kill you. And then finally, when Peg Leg Joe comes in and goes to stab her, how he doesn't stab through both of them, I don't understand.
Oh,
I
God.
thought he did. That's what I thought was going to happen at the end. He's like, fuck both these assholes.
That would have been great had she bitten him and then he comes in and stabs them both like Friday the 13th style. That would have been great. But instead, what we get is Instabones.
Oh boy.
Best effect in this entire episode. I was half expecting in the background to, it's like fucking Pirates of the Caribbean all of a sudden. What the hell? With all the fog too? What an effect. Just put the dummy skeleton in there with the stake through its chest. It'll work, guys. Put the actress's clothes on it to look even better.
I don't think they did a snap zoom onto that skeleton, but I really had wished they had, just to really drive the point home, pun intended.
Yeah, that was the best part of the episode. Or when Lesley Ann Warren is about to attack him and he like stops her, that whole scene is strangely paced and shot. Because she's about to fight him and he's like, no. And it's like the camera work is strange. The timing is super strange. Again, I don't know. Leonard Nimoy, like, I'm glad he was directing it, but boy, I wish you had directed like in the first or second season of this show, because it would have been Steven Spielberg directed an episode of this show. It's hard because this feels so far from that.
He almost directed 2 episodes, I think, but then didn't, right?
Spielberg? Well, he definitely directed the pilot episode, but then it's attributed to him, but Make Me Laugh is not his, according to him.
I thought there was plans for him to do another one, and they were like, he got busy or something.
Yeah, I believe he had done 2 episodes of another show, and they offered him this, and he said he couldn't do it, and that's when Jack Laird said he'd never work for Universal again.
Can I say, to the point of talking about this Barge and Universal, I half expected the fucking Jaws shark the Jaws shark's popping out about 10 feet behind the set, right? That's like, no,
not yet, not in 72.
You know what I'm getting at. It's
of course.
This feels so fucking set bound. It's so set bound. All the stuff away from the Barge is fine, but that Barge is just, man, that's just a set. That's just a set.
Nope. I like that Barge. I thought it was good. I thought it was well shot, actually. I know it's the backlot, but there are certain hallmarks that less experienced filmmakers, which is funny because this is his first time, it's glaring that we're just out back here and there's a grip truck just out of frame.
Can I say that I have a hard time taking vampires anything seriously anymore, as such a huge fan of what we do in the shadows? Because I just have a hard time taking vampires seriously anymore. Because they're just so fun. And I don't know, like vampires aren't scary. I don't know if this is trying to be scary, but it doesn't succeed at much other than giving us once again some really choice decisions in terms of set decoration and effects. Because like I would say the spiders and the cobwebs are an effect the same way the skeleton with the spear through its chest is an effect in this episode.
I think this episode could have done with a little bit more character work between the lead and the female lead, and a better actor playing that part, and less of the B plot of this Fright Night bullshit of we gotta save Charlie from the vampire kind of stuff with the girlfriend. Who cares about any of that, about the other friend? Like, this was a story about this guy and this girl, and or it was a VD thing.
It's better if you read it as a VD thing, but not much better.
All right, we're going to play a preview of our next episode, and we'll be right back to wrap things up.
Strips of ethereal night clouds as seen from the vantage point of a square acre of tombstones, and the face of a neutral onlooker who surveys the silence. Well, perhaps not quite total silence, because the name of our painting is Whisper, and it tells the story of one body inhabited by two people. And at a point, as you can well imagine, this gets crowded. And if this one doesn't ice up the old spine, we'll send you one of our official apologies, along with the body. That's the kind of guarantee you get in the night gallery. We call your attention to this gentle facial study with the one visible intriguing eye and the wind-blown hair. And to those of you whose visual acuity is perhaps better than most, you'll note the skulls that one eye is contemplating. This painting is called Doll of Death, and it tells a story that takes place in the West Indies, where the ancient art of voodoo is still practiced and celebrated. Now, if you don't believe in voodoo, you can take this with a grain of salt. On the other hand, if you find yourself dancing to that distant drummer, and the drum seems to beckon, check for missing pins and brand new dolls. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Night Gallery.
That's right. On the next Midnight Viewing, we'll be taking a look at Season 3, Episodes 13 and 14, Whisper and the Doll of Death. Midnight Viewing, the Night Gallery podcast, is a proud member of Weirding Way Media Group, and the theme song was composed by HP. Until next time, what are you working on? Where can people find it, Mike White?
Well, you can always find all the stuff that I work on over at weirdingwaymedia.com, or if you just are interested in the projection booth, you can find that at projectionboothpodcast.com. But you can also find it at weirdingwaymedia.com, just so you know. How
about you, Chris Stachiw?
weirdingwaymedia.com. That's where you can find all the things that I do, including this show, which we show up on, and other things that we've done. Chronicles from the Crypt, Kolchak tapes, Barney Miller, lots of anthology, Dreams for Sale. Just mention the anthology stuff. If you're listening to this, there's no way you wouldn't be interested in those things as well. So there's plenty of anthology talk to fill your hours over at weirdingwaymedia.com.
As for me, check out my show Dark Destinations, a radio drama I write and produce, and you can hear me on Night Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast hosted by HP. If you want to hear this show a week early, head over to Patreon/Father Malone. Membership will get you listening ad-free and give you access to exclusive content. Thank you for joining us here at Midnight Viewing. The gallery is now closed.